Hello, everyone. Welcome to our acting session. I am your host, Marco DiGeorge. I'm the co founder and instructor at Truthful Acting Studios. We're an acting conservatory located in Orlando, Florida. And today I wanted to talk about our topic is the psychology of acting. And I think this is an important topic to discuss, especially if anyone is in the early stages of acting, or you're thinking of getting involved in acting, either as anywhere from a hobby to a career. It's important to understand psychologically what it takes to get in there. And what I mean psychologically is, one, I want to talk about certain misconceptions of acting versus what the truths of acting are. But separately, one of the main pieces of acting is to be able to step in to another life, another point of view. This thing that we call character is inhabiting the life of somebody else that is outside of ourselves. So, in order to really do that and to do that efficiently and safely, we have to understand certain psychologies. And by psychology, I mean behavioral psychology of both ourselves as a human being, but also psychology that then would relate to character. Because when we step in or play a character, we're really trying to fully inhabit the life of another human being. So the better we understand human beings and how we operate, the more effectively we can step it into that. So, what I'd like to start off with, oh, and before we begin, we have the chat feature. So, whether you're here on through our website and watching this, or on YouTube Live, you can chat with us. You can ask questions. What I typically do is, any questions, if it relates to the topic at hand, I'll try to get to them. Any other questions that you want answered, I will save for toward the end, and I'll try to get to as much as I can. But let's jump right into misconceptions of acting, because I think this is where it all begins, and this is, to me, the important step to understand before we can get into anything deeper. And it starts off with the number one misconception is that acting is about pretending to be a character. Now, it's a pretty common one, and to me personally, this is understandable. Because from outside the industry looking in, when we're a viewer of the arts, and we're watching TV, or we're watching film, or we're watching stage, or whatever that is, we're watching these characters. Well, the great actors make it look easy. And they make it look easy because it just seems like, well, they're just themselves pretending to be somebody else. And they do it so naturally. And I had the same misconception very, when I was much younger, looking at the acting, and saying, wow, I want to do that. I want to be like this person, or I can pretend to be like this character. And so we think it's about pretending to be a character. Now, while there's much imagination work and creativity work within our acting, the truth of this is that acting demands a greater truth than real life. And this is an interesting one. This is really where the psychology all begins, because how at all can acting demand a greater truth than real life? What can be more true than real life? Well, what we mean is, it's not more real than real life. It's not realistic, but it is more truthful. And by truthful, we mean by allowing others to see and be exposed to your vulnerability and emotions. In reality, in your actual day to day lives, most people hide, meaning we put on what we call social masks. We hide from conflict, we hide from vulnerability. And even if, well, while we're trying to hide from it from ourselves, we try to control it and keep it down, we absolutely hide it from others. So when we go out in a social environment, we wear what we call social masks, which is what we want others to perceive us to be. instead of who we actually are. We typically don't want to show deeper emotion in public or in front of others. We don't want others to really understand or know our fears or what we would consider our weaknesses. Anything that would be vulnerable to us, we hide away and we keep very private to ourselves. That's normally how the human condition works in normal everyday life. But in acting, now we're stepping into a character, and these characters deal with the same things we do in life, except the moments that we're portraying in these characters' lives are the most vulnerable and exposed moments that they've ever had. Meaning, it's Hitchcock called a story, it's life with the boring parts cut out. So we cut to each interesting moment. And these interesting moments are when a character is going through something much deeper. And so now, as an actor, we have to step into these same types of feelings and vulnerabilities that we deal with in our actual life. But now we have to embrace it right here in our core and allow it to express and come up, and we have to expose it. By expressing the emotion, by expressing the vulnerability, we're exposing it to the world. Now, in a film or a TV show or even in a play, we're exposing it to the audience, right? We're including the audience, we're inviting the audience to witness what we are going through, what this character is going through. So, inviting them in as a witness, they're now viewing us. But it's still very difficult because what we're going through as the actor is authentic. The emotions are authentic. The vulnerability is authentic. It's all imaginary, but it's authentic, meaning the feelings are still the same. So our natural instinct as a human being is to pull back, is to hide, is to defend. That's our natural instinct. So what we need to learn as an actor, some of the hard work that is in front of us as actors, is to allow ourselves to expose this vulnerability very freely and allow others to see it. Now, even on a film set where we don't have a direct audience, we do have the entire crew. They become our surrogate audience. The director, the camera department, the sound department, I mean, all of the production department. I mean, everyone surrounding us becomes our audience right there. It's still in front of others. So it's very exposing. And so that's the greater truth than real life, is we don't have, I don't say we don't have, is we must allow ourselves to expose the vulnerability when we're acting in front of camera or on stage. And so that's where it's not simply pretending. And by pretending, what many people feel or believe is that, oh, it's just ourselves and then we put on a mask to become a character. It's like we're wearing a character mask. I'm just going to take myself and now I'm going to pretend to be this other person. And really, through the psychology of acting, we work on psychology quite a bit in the beginning, is we have to actually get down. We cannot build a character on top of our actual social self. Instead, we learn how to take away our actual masks that we wear in life. We learn how to peel those away layer by layer in order to reveal something called our core truth or our essence. And that essence is what we build upon to then go in the direction and the point of view of character. Well, the next misconception, and it's all based on this, right? We think that acting is about pretending to be the character. So, uh, because of that, we also believe that acting requires a talent that you must be born with. And it kind of goes hand in hand, right? If we believe that, oh, it's just pretending. So someone even, the great and late, Robin Williams, who was just, it was so very, very crisp with his improvisational ability. We believe that, oh, he was just born with that ability. He was there was no work that he had to put into it because it was a talent that he was born with. And what that does is anytime we just kind of simplify something down to, oh, they're just naturally talented, it negates the hard work that goes into it, because acting is a skill. It's learnable. And all of these great actors that you see do these roles that you love, and they do it so effortlessly, it's through the exhausting amount of hard work that they've put into it over time. Acting is a skill. We learn it. We learn it over a long period of time. It's not something you're either born with or not. That's a complete misconception. The good news there is, yes, anyone can learn it. I really believe that anyone can be an actor. Now, I'm going to add a caveat to it. Anyone can be an actor if you have the will to do it, if you have the drive to do it, if you have the passion to do it. And to me, that's what talent is. Talent is not the skill, because that's learnable over time. Talent is this innate thing inside of you, this seed that's inside of you, uh, that is your drive through life. It's what you're the most passionate about. It's what you love. It's what you seek. It's what you need in life. And everybody has a different drive. Some people it's sports. Some people it's art. And even like within those, right? I mean, even with art, I mean, it could be music, it could be dancing, or it could be acting. And some people it could be math. Some people it could be medicine. Some people like there's all different types of drives that we have in life. One of my main drives is teaching, right? Giving back to others. And so that's just like an innate thing inside of me. It's something that I can't describe, or it's not like I developed it. I've always had it. I always want to be involved, giving back, teaching, and helping others learn. So it's my passion. And because it's a passion, we will work on the things we love much more when we truly enjoy uh, the process, when we truly enjoy like what we do, whether it's a sport. Oops, I had a quick error for a minute. Let me make sure we're back. Okay. So when we love what we're doing, we will put in that extra effort. And I think that's an important distinction, because if you think about the things like, let's say a job, let's say you have a job, and in that job, you're not really thrilled with what you do. Well, you won't really work as hard as you could on it. But if you have a hobby that you absolutely adore, well, you'll work on it for free. You'll work on it for, you do it on the side. I think of the things we love. I mean, it's we just do it because we love to do it. Well, now when you match those things together and you say, well, I love doing this and I'm going to work on it as a career. I really want to go in that direction. Well, now you're blending these things together, and you're saying, I'm going to work on this harder than anything else. And those are the actors that succeed. Those are really the people in life that succeed in whatever they're doing, are the ones that love what they're doing. And that's what your talent is, whatever you love, because that's your drive. And that means you will put more time and dedication into that than anything else. So what I always try to tell students is, whatever your you want to do in life, like whatever your love is, your passion center, figure that out. If it's woodworking, then do that. If it's singing, then get a vocal coach and sing. And if it's acting, take classes and train and become an actor, and you will succeed. So the next misconception, going right along this line, is that acting doesn't require a lot of hard work. Well, as I just was talking about, the truth is acting takes an incredible amount of hard work. But because many people think that you're either born with it or you're not, well, it makes sense then to think, well, we don't need to work hard at it. It kind of goes hand in hand with that. So once we realize that, no, it's a skill, and it's something that if we have a desire to do it, we can do it, but we have to work hard at it. To be a proficient actor, something that you're going to make a career out of, you train about as long to be an actor as you would a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. I mean, it's years and years and years. I mean, we study for a decade, and it's on all the different nuances of being an actor. And so it takes an incredible amount of hard work, day in and day out. And the hard work leads us to making it look simple. We make it look natural. We don't want the audience to ever see the hard work we put into it. We want the audience. It's like an illusion. I always try to tell my students that acting is we're like illusionists. If you think of a magician or an illusionist, they'll go on stage and they have all of these magic tricks that they do, and they make it look so easy, right? Sleight of hand. But we don't see the exhausting amount of hard work they've put into all of the hours over and over and over rehearsing it to make it look so easy. It looks natural. But it took hard work to get there. And we do the same thing as an actor. It takes a lot of hard work to get there. The audience only sees the end result. And that's the goal of it. We're illusionists. And then finally, because we believe that we're born with it, because we believe it doesn't require a lot of hard work, we also believe that it doesn't require a lot of training. But as we go down the truth of it, where it's learnable, it's a skill, it takes an incredible amount of hard work. Well, it also requires constant and consistent training. And as I've said, we could train easily for the first decade of our acting training, just becoming more and more proficient at it. And then the greater truth is that we don't ever stop training. We train in different ways. Once you start getting into the industry and you're working more consistently, well, you're training every time you're on set or every time you're on stage. I mean, every time we get a chance to pick up new material and work with it, we are in essence training. We're pushing ourselves. So the way the education works is we learn a set of tools and we learn a process for acting. But then once you understand that process, you take yourself through it over and over and over, and you actually create your own unique version of a process as an actor. Every actor has their own unique version. It starts off more commonly, but really you're going to find nuances within yourself. What motivates you? What doesn't motivate you? What can help you step into the life? What helps you step out of the life? All of these different things. And every actor through their career is every role you play, you're trying to deepen that experience and deepen that life. That's the beautiful thing about the art. It never plateaus, or at least that's our goal. We never want as an artist for it to get to a point where it levels off. As an artist, we're always saying, okay, what can we improve on next time? How can we go deeper next time? And to me, that makes it magical. That makes the experience one where we're always learning something and we're always having new experiences. Okay, so I want to get those misconceptions out of the way because I think that's an important aspect of learning what acting really is. Now to look at a deeper psychology of it, to me we have to look at human behavior. And this is important, as I said earlier, for both ourselves and for this thing called character. So human behavioral psychology, it's extremely important, and there's a couple reasons. One is because our acting mythology is based in human behavior. Now, going all the way back, to where acting began, all the way to today, these are human stories being told, stories about humanity, in a lot of different forms, but they're still stories about humanity. And so we have to understand what that really means. What is the human experience? And then secondly, whichever process you kind of go down, the actual acting processes, the techniques are built on top of psychology. because what we're doing, stepping into the mindset of somebody else, is a psychological process. So we need to understand how we function. So the way we do that, what I like to do is kind of take a step back and look at something called the duality of the human psyche. I think this is a pretty clean way to look at this. So I have this diagram that I want to show you, and it starts off with a timeline. And the timeline is simply, well, there's a past and there's a future, right? This is our timeline that we are on right now. You have your past and your future. And then within that, let's just say this line right here is what we would call the present moment or the living moment, right? We are going through it over and over and over. It's the right now moment. So as we look at, well, as we are experiencing life and we are going through life, how does this really work? Because we have thoughts and we have feelings and we have that voice in our head that governs what we do or don't do, that the voices that guide us through life. Well, how does that even work? Well, first of all, I want to take a look at what we call the logical mind. The logical mind is the part of your brain that governs logical thought, or what we also consider the fear center. Now, this is a big factor in what you do day to day in life, how you govern the decisions you make. It's the governor of that is the logical mind. So how this works is right here in the living moment, we have something called experiential input. Experiential input means that we are gathering data, we are gathering information about life through our experiences. So right now we're having an experience. You're gathering information about this. Whether you like the experience, whether you don't like the experience, how you feel about the experience, what you're hearing about it, all of this information is coming in to the living moment. And then this information is then dropped in to the logical mind, right? Which is in our what we would call our experienced past. It kind of dumps in. So the logical mind is a processor, as a way to look at it. It's a computer bank. And it operates like a computer bank. Its job is to take all of the input that we put into the computer, our logical mind. Its job is to process through it, to break it apart, parse it apart, run algorithms on it, and try to figure out if there's any validity to anything that we're receiving. What's the good and what's the bad from all of our experiences? And then it's trying to develop equations that then jump over into this future event that's coming, or what we call the projected future. This is kind of how the logical mind works. All right, we have our experienced past. So everything that happens to you in life it gets dumped in to our computer of the mind. And its job is to try to figure out what's happening next. That's its job. And it's trying to understand what could happen. So when we take a look at that, it's like, okay, well, what's the primary function of that logical mind then? Well, its primary function is survival. So you have something inside of you called a survival instinct. And the survival instinct is the part that is simply trying to keep you alive every moment of every day. And it's trying to guide you away from anything that might be a danger to you. It's trying to keep you safe. Now, the logical mind is what we call binary in nature, meaning there's only two states that exist. So things that are binary in life, in computer language and in math, binary means it's a 1 or a 0. It's an on or off state. It's a yes or a no. Well, to the logical mind, the yes or the no means, is something safe or is it unsafe? That's all it understands. Any piece of information that it has, it's going to equate, do I have enough information to deem this as safe? If I don't, then it's unsafe. Now, this relates to relationships. This relates to any activities that you do. This relates to any chances that you take, your work environment. I mean, this relates to all of that. Is something safe or is unsafe? So you're thinking about, for example, trying a new venture into something. Let's say you want to, say you're thinking about skydiving, right? You've never done it before, and it's like, ooh, the thrill, the thought of the thrill of skydiving. Well, the logical mind will immediately engage, if you've never done it before, will immediately engage and say, hold on, let's think about this. There's not enough information here for me to say that this is safe for you, so it's dangerous. And it fills you with this thing called fear, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So that's the logical mind's function. It's survival. That's it. Because of that, that's why it's trying to predict what's going to happen next. That's its job, to say what could possibly happen. What is the worst case scenario of what could possibly happen? And we've had these before. Let's say you've had to have a difficult conversation with a loved one about anything. Just some conversation you've had to have that you weren't looking forward to having. Well, leading up to that conversation, we run scenarios in our mind. That's the logical mind. It's calculating and running scenarios of what could possibly happen. And the scenarios we run in our mind are always worst case because it needs to protect you. It needs to try to say, hey, you have to look out for this and you have to look out for this. And typically the scenarios we run in our head are worse than actuality. But that's the logical mind's job. Where it gets in the way is when it becomes, if there's something we want to do, like what we call a rational fear. You know, we want to take an acting class. I've been thinking about it for years. It's something I think I really might want to do. And I hear this story often. Someone says, oh, I've been thinking about taking your class for years. I just don't know if it's the right time. And they talk themselves out of taking the class. And the logical mind gives them all of these excuses of why it's not the right time. And so that's where it can come into play. Because even as something as irrational, the irrational fear of just taking an acting class, the logical mind does not understand the risk. And it doesn't understand that there's really no major physical risk. It just knows that this is an unknown territory. I don't have enough information on it. Something bad could happen. And therefore, it fills you with confirming thoughts of why you should not do it. And then many people wait, they hesitate, and they, years. I mean, we've had people say, man, I was, I was following you 5 years ago. I really wanted to take this class, but I just couldn't gather the courage to do it, or I couldn't get myself to do it. And it took them 5 years to work through it to take that chance. That's the logical mind. Now, it's not a bad thing. I want to look at it as on a good or bad platform. The logical mind's primary function is survival. It's trying to keep you safe. And the more we understand that from a psychological standpoint, the more we can start working with our logical mind to work through things. So the next piece of this puzzle, we talk about the logical mind, which is the experienced past and the projected future. The logical mind does not exist in this little sliver, as you can see from the diagram. It's a computer. It only can process information that we put into it, but it is not conscious of the present moment, only of the immediate past. So then what is this present moment then? Well, this present moment right here, this sliver of time, the living moment that we are in, is governed by something called our emotional core, or our feeling center, or the love center. So the emotional core is the other half of the duality of the human psyche. So we have the logical mind, which is processing everything through and trying to keep us safe. And then there's the part of us that exists right here and right now. And the part of us that does that, as we're moving through life, we feel it. It's our emotional core, meaning that we feel our way through each moment. We don't think our way through each moment. We feel our way through each moment. Our experience is completely based in feeling. How do we feel about this? And our feelings then govern just about everything else. It's the other half of who we are and what we do. And a lot of times we don't give enough credit to that, because sociologically, we discount our feelings. Meaning, through our culture and through our society, we have learned to put more of an emphasis on the logic and less of an emphasis on the feelings. In fact, we have even gotten to the point where we've created an environment where we look at feelings as wrong or weak. And this happens from early childhood all the way to adulthood. We've learned that if we express feelings in front of others, that vulnerable moment, we may be criticized or judged by others or even made fun of by others for that expression. Middle school, it begins. High school is a very rough time for that. And then beyond into adulthood. So we learn how to hide our feelings. We learn how to not show our expression. We learn how to hide our vulnerabilities simply because we don't want to look weak in front of others. And there it is. We've equated the word weak with emotional expression. That has been taught to us and is now a deep part of us. But the truth, as an actor, and I believe as a human being, our ability to emotionally express in front of others is our strength and not our weakness. So let me show you another, let's see, I have a symbol. It's a very well-known symbol. It's an ancient symbol. It goes back as, as about as far as we know from ancient symbols. And it's called the Yin and the Yang. So we've all seen this symbol throughout uh, throughout our time. And it's also known as the balance of the human being. That's what this very simple symbol represents, the balance of the human being. Now, it's been known throughout history to represent different things depending on the context you're seeing it in. It's the light versus the dark. It's heaven and hell, good versus evil, the masculine and the feminine. I mean, it's represented many, many different things in history. But looking at it in the context that we're talking about, what we're really saying, even with all of those other things, is the logical mind, or our fear center, and the emotional core, or the love center. Right? We have love and fear. Those are the two pieces of the human puzzle, of what we make up, that what we understand as consciousness. As we move through the day, and the voices we hear in our head are these two. We've seen this in animated cartoons for years, where there's like the two people on the shoulders. There's the angel and the devil, right? And they're both on the shoulder. And basically, it's representing these two pieces. It's the emotional core, which is the love center, where we want to do something, we want to fight something, we want to go in this direction. I feel like I really want to do this. And the fear center, which holds us back, telling us, no, we better not. It's too dangerous. We need to stay safe. Do this instead. And it's the battle between the two. Now, the thing about this symbol, which I love, is that the yin and the yang represent two sides of this, but they're not representing the two sides of this as conflicting partners. Meaning, if they were conflicting, there would be a solid line down the middle, and they'd be pushing against each other, right? That shows conflict, right? When we're putting force against each other. Instead, there's this curvature of the two, which represents fluidity. It represents movement, and it actually represents harmony. So there's not a straight line on this image. It's all curved. In addition to that, it represents the dot of the other in each, which represents a symbiotic relationship. They're connected. Neither side can work without the other. They need each other. And when they work together, we are the strongest that we can be. And I say strongest, the most efficient. We can reach our goals. We're the happiest that we can be as a human being. And this right here, this image is what we're trying to achieve in our lives. If you want to achieve happiness in your life, if you want to achieve success, however you deem that in your life, this is the way to do it. Now, the issue is that right now with this yin and the yang, the issue is that we, especially in American society, Western society, we are the majority dark. We are the majority fear. We're at least 75% allocated to fear, with only 25% or even less allocated to love or passion or desire. And that simply comes back to our culture. It comes back to just how we're raised as a society, the fact that we live in a capitalistic democracy. There's a lot of different things for that. But we're surrounded by things that perpetuate a fear cycle inside of us. The fear cycle meaning making us feel not quite good enough, not having the freedom to express our feelings. So here's again where psychology comes in, because as a human being, we feel our way through every moment. And another truth that many of us don't realize, you do not have any control over your feelings. Meaning you can't, we try, as much as we try, we cannot control how we feel about certain things. Now, we try to control what we do with those feelings. We try to control how we express them, or even if we express them, maybe holding them in, or maybe trying to rationalize through something. We try to control the expression of all of this and how we perceive it. But the feeling itself, it just generates. And it's not logical nor rational. So now we have to look at and say, okay, so in a society or in life, we have a feeling about something. Something upsets us. We feel sad about something. Now, the natural way is to express it. We feel something and we express it. That's what feelings are meant to do. They're meant to express out to the world. But when the logical mind comes in, and especially in a Western culture society, when the logical mind comes in and says, no, you cannot express that. If you express it, it's going to make you look weak and other people won't like you. Then we hold it in. Well, once we hold a feeling in, now we're start negating who we are. And really what we're telling ourselves in those moments is we're telling ourselves that we're not quite good enough. What we're feeling, the reaction that we had, the feeling that we had is not good enough for this situation or for me or for the environment or for whatever's happening. And so by telling yourself you're not good enough, we begin feeling not good enough. And then we start perpetuating this idea inside our head that we are not enough for the world. It's a very negative event that we dwell on. All subconscious. It's an unconscious process. It all just happens internally, but it happens over and over and over. And whether it's, it was in high school when you had an emotional reaction to something and someone made fun of you, whether it was a parent at one time or someone older saying, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Who knows what those events were in your life that led to this point, but there's so many different things that we've learned that, my God, I need to suppress all of this emotion and not let others see it. That's what we deal with every day as a human being. Now, as an artist, now we want to be an artist, we want to be an actor. And the thing is, we need to have a clear channel from our emotions, which start in our gut, and then allow them to fully express without any interference from ourselves or any judgment from ourselves about those feelings and what we're expressing. Because that's the need and the demand of the character work that we're doing. Our characters are feeling something. Our characters need to express. So this is where psychology comes in, because in order to reach that as a character, we, as the actor, need to do so much difficult, vulnerable work getting this path clear. So we have developed blocks throughout the years, and they're right here. They're right in our chest. That's where the next time you feel something deeply emotional, you'll feel it in the pit of your stomach. It will begin to rise up, and if you block it, you'll feel yourself blocking it right here in your chest. If it's an extremely strong emotion, it may reach your throat, and then you tighten your throat, you tighten your shoulders, all of this tightens up. If it even gets as far as your face, if it's about to express and you're still trying to hold on to it, you'll feel your face muscles contort in. We use our body, our muscular system, to try to hold in this emotion. Well, now as an actor, we need to relax that. And then we need to learn and work through what these blocks are. And then we need to eliminate them one by one so we have a clear path. So the journey to be an actor, we really have to work on the human being as well. Because it's impossible to be closed off in life and to have all of these blocks and then to magically step into it on stage or in front of the camera. It doesn't work that way. Whatever we're blocked with in life, we will be blocked with as an actor. So to me, one of the magical things, completely cathartic things about being an actor or going down that journey is we get to heal a lot of the things, that the damage that we have inside of us. And I say damage, but just things inside of us that have blocked us for years. We get to heal those things and work on those things. We get to learn how to become a fuller version of ourself, a more freer version of ourself. And then which will then lead to being a happier version of yourself. We work on learning that we are enough in this world. And right the first day of class, I tell that to the students. It's these 3 words that are the most important, which is I am enough. And we have to say that to ourselves each and every day. I am enough. We can't let the opinions of others drown that out. So we work on that over and over and over. And really, that's the long-term education process of an actor. Sure, we learn skills and we learn technique, and there's so many different things that we do work on. We work on our voice and we work on our physicality, but working on the psychology, working on the emotion, and working on the mental acuity. Those 3 things are the bottom layer, meaning the foundation, the deepest layers of the foundation that everything else is built upon. Those 3 things: your mental ability, and making sure you're mentally sharp and focused, which builds on top of psychology, your human psychology, and what moves you and how you function and what affects you. And then emotions, learning how to freely feel and express. It's the human experience at the greatest level, which is why I love acting. It's why I love all the art forms. Because I think really most art forms try to achieve this, whether you're singing, playing an instrument, dancing, sculpting, drawing. I mean, they're all trying to achieve it through different mediums. The interesting thing as an actor is we are trying to achieve it through ourselves. We are the instrument of the art as well as the artist. And so it's a very cathartic experience. So let's go back, and I want to take a look at something called the stages of fear, because we talked about how the logical mind, it uses something called fear to stop us from making a mistake that it thinks may harm us. Now understand, the logical mind, just like the yin and the yang have represented, it's not that we need to eliminate fear completely. Fear is a necessary thing. And in fact, it's 50% of our makeup. The biggest thing is, though, is we want it to stay at 50% and not come into 60, 70, or 80%, which really traps us in life. We want to bring it back to 50. That's our goal in life. But we need fear. Fear is not a bad thing. We only perceive it to be a bad thing. The truth is, if I could snap my fingers, do a Thanos snap, and snap away all of your fear, you'd be dead in an hour. If you had nothing stopping you from doing some crazy things, you would do those crazy things. Not because you were trying to do something crazy, because you wouldn't even perceive it as crazy. You wouldn't have the fear to stop you. Fear is not a bad thing. And also, fear can be very motivating to work harder. So let's take a look at what I consider the stages of fear. Now, this is something, if you wanted to do something new, you want to go skydiving, for example, or you want to take an acting class, or you want to do something that you've been building up the courage for. Well, we have 3 stages of what we go through. And the first stage is simply forget everything and run. This is the common fight or flight response. When we're faced with a new danger, whatever that danger is, our initial instinctive reaction is to run the other way, is to move in the opposite direction of the threat event. Right? So if we're in a dangerous situation or something happens and we just don't want to be there, or even if it's an irrational fear like roller coasters or spiders or cockroaches or whatever they are, it's like, okay, we're going to just go in the opposite direction. But if we want to work through it, if it's something that we're passionate about, like acting or auditioning or riding a roller coaster or something, it's like, no, I really, really want to do this. I want to work through the fear. Well, then we will enter another phase, which is called false evidence appearing real, meaning our rational mind will come into play and we will begin rationalizing through it, and we'll realize that the actual threat is not what we perceive it to be. Because fear feels the same, regardless of what it is. There's not different types of fear. There's only one fear, and it all feels the same. The physiological response in your body is the same, whether it's a roller coaster, whether it's a spider or cockroach, or whether you're actually in a life or death situation, the physiological response is the same. Our perception of it is different. Plus, all fear is the fear of death. That's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of dying. So it's one thing, but we view it differently. So first we the threat of, obviously, we're fearful of something and forget everything and run. The threat is death, so we're going to run the other way. But then we can rationalize it. And we say, okay, I wanted to take an acting class. Nothing bad is really going to happen. I want to go on this audition. Nothing bad is really going to happen. I know I'm feeling the fear, but I can work through it. I'm not going to, nothing horrible is going to happen because of it. So this is a stage we enter for quite a long period of time. False evidence appearing real. We're injected with fear, but then we work through it, we rationalize it, and we move on. Eventually, if we're consistent, we keep doing it over and over and over, we keep rationalizing through it, we will reach a stage called feeling excited and ready. It's a very important stage to be in. This is when we have the same feeling of fear, but now instead of perceiving it as a danger, we're perceiving it as an excitement. This is where professional athletes get to. This is when you've done skydiving a couple times, you might, you're going back for the second, third, fourth time. Now you're excited for it. You're still filled with the same adrenaline rush, but you want to do it. This is for fans of the horror genre, that you want to go to this horror movie and be scared, but we do that willingly. Or Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios. I love those type of things. We're going to be scared. We know it. That's the whole point of doing it, but we're doing it safely and we love it. Because the truth is, we love the feeling of fear. We love that feeling. So fear, also known as anxiety. So anxiety, the definition of anxiety is the feeling of fear. So that's when we feel anxious, we're simply feeling fear. We actually love that feeling. So it's known as a heightened state of awareness. And if we think about it from our fight or flight response, that's what it's meant to be. It's a adrenaline. We get infused with adrenaline, and the adrenaline increases our senses. Right, your heart rate immediately goes up. Right, you can feel yourself getting shaky because our response is higher. We feel cold because our touch response is higher. Our vision actually increases. We have better vision, better hearing, better smell, all for this momentary time while we are going through this anxious moment. And what that ultimately means is we feel more alive. That's why we do these things. That's why we watch horror movies, or that's why you go skydiving or do any of the extreme sports. You want to feel more alive. Well, acting is in itself an extreme type of sport. Because what we do as actors, not physically, I mean, unless you're stunt acting or something, I mean, not physically, but emotionally, what we do is we are stepping on stage or in front of that camera, and we are stepping into this place called the unknown. We're stepping into that living moment. And when we step into this unknown living moment, we are infused with fear. Because anything that the logical mind doesn't fully know, it's going to fear. So when we as a performer step into this living moment, which is what our job is to be in the living moment of creativity. When we do that, we have fear. We let go of control completely. We're not allowing the logical mind to control us, to tell us what has to happen next. We actually don't know what's going to happen next. Now, I understand, yes, there's a script. Yes, there's dialogue we have to say. Yes, there's certain things we're being directed. Yes, there's technique on top of it. But the way we learn it as an actor, and this is why it's such a long form process, the way we learn it as an actor is we learn it so instinctively, whether it's the dialogue, our movement, what's happening in the scene, our emotions, that once we're in that stage of performance, we let it all go. We instinctively say the next words because we've memorized them so deeply. We allow ourselves to truly put all of our focus outward on another human being and work off what's really happening in this moment. So in essence, we're truly stepping in to the living moment fully. We're pulling all of our focus. We're not allowing our mind to wander to the past or the future. We're pulling all of our focus to this living moment right here, right now. When that happens, we are infused with anxiety. And so it becomes an extreme sport. I mean, actors can say the same thing as going skydiving. It's like, man, I was so alive on that stage. I was so alive on that set. It felt so alive. Those are the magical, wonderful, creative moments that I think all artists can experience at one point or another. Dancers experience it, singers, musicians. I mean, it's whatever you're doing, you can be in that creative place. That's the magic of it. And that's what we work toward. But it's a slower process. We can't jump into that. It takes work after work after work, and sometimes years after years after years of training to slowly achieve those deeper states. But that's why psychology is so important. That's why human behavioral psychology is critical to this whole process. One more quick thing I want to go over with you. I know we're getting close to the end, but I would like to at least leave you with this as well. And it's the difference between anxiety and stress, because I just think this is such an important topic to discuss. And in uh, in life, we many times we confuse the two, or we think they're the same. We say that anxiety and stress is the same thing. And I want to ask students, what's the difference? And they'll come up with maybe some differences, but they're still going in the same direction. And so I want to make sure I give you kind of definitions for both, because they're not the same thing at all. So anxiety is simply, as I've said, the feeling of fear. That's it. When you're afraid, you feel anxious. When you're anxious, you're afraid. Now, you may not always know what you're afraid of. If you're somebody that suffers from anxiety or has, frequent anxiety, you may not even know what you're afraid of, but there's something that is sparking that, whether it's conscious or unconscious. But it's simply the feeling of fear. So as you move toward a threat, so let's say I want to go skydiving and it's the first time I'm doing that. Well, and I arranged it for later today. I may be very excited about it, but the closer I get to that point of actually getting on that plane to go skydiving, my anxiety will increase. The closer the threat event gets to you, or the closer you get to the threat event, the higher rate of anxiety you have. And that's your logical mind trying to tell you, don't do this. This could be dangerous. And this is with rational fears or irrational fears. It works the same way. If you remove the threat event, the anxiety goes away. Meaning, let's say I drive all the way to the place where I'm going to go skydiving, the airport that we're going to do this at. And I decide right before I get on the plane that, you know what, I don't want to do this. I'm too afraid. I don't want to do this. And I back out. Well, my anxiety will go away almost immediately. It will drop because I've eliminated the threat event. But now I've created something called stress. Stress is the thing that is dangerous to us in life, and we really have to get a good handle on it. Stress, in its most simplest definition, is the feeling of obligation of having to do something you don't want to do. That's it. The feeling of obligation of having to do something you don't want to do. When you have a desire that wants to go in one direction, but through thought and fear, you decide to do something else, you have just created stress. We see this all the time in staying in a job that you hate. If you're in a job that is toxic to you, you hate it, you don't like the environment, you don't like the people, you feel bad about yourself every day for going, but you still choose to go, you're creating stress. Your desire is to quit. Through a fear response, you decide to stay through the obligation of having to stay or having to make money or having to for loyalty or whatever it is. There's an obligation there. That's why you stay. You create stress. Relationships. If you're in a toxic relationship, whether it's romantic, whether it's family, friends, but you would rather not be around this person. You would rather end the relationship. You would rather, right, spend less time with them, whatever it is. But you choose to be around them because you feel obligated to. Whether it's obligated to make the relationship work, or it's obligated because, well, they're a sibling, I have to stay around them. I can't, not be around, whatever that is, you create stress. So then what do we do about that? Well, one, identify the difference between anxiety and stress. Anxiety is temporary, stress is long-term. With stress, you want to take action. You want to change your environment to eliminate the stress. Stress is you beating yourself up for not doing what you really want. It's the feeling of being a coward. So it's unconscious process. We want to do something, we hide away from it because of our fear, and then we internally beat ourselves up. We actually beat ourselves up, which is the feeling of it. And you feel the tension in your muscles. You feel the tightening of everything. Stress can be very heavy and weight you down. That is you beating yourself up. You telling yourself that you're not enough in this world. Stress is dangerous and it could ultimately kill you. Do something about that. Make changes. Choose not to spend so much time around people. Have the difficult conversation if you need to have it. It's better than not having the conversation. Quit your job if it's toxic. My God, there are other jobs out there, I promise you. But start putting yourself in that direction. Now, anxiety, when anxiety gets out of control, is when we get caught. There's something called a stress anxiety loop. And this is what we have to be careful for in life. A stress anxiety loop is when, let's take the job example, and you have a toxic job and you really want to quit, and you say, today I'm going to quit. Today's the day, right? I'm going to go in, talk to my boss, I'm going to quit. I'll give my 2 weeks, but I'm going to find something else. But then we get to work, and the anxiety hits us because the threat event is approaching. And then from the anxiety and the fear and all of the thoughts that we have of, oh, I'm never going to find another job, I'm not going to have enough money to survive, all of these things that come into us that the logical mind is feeding you to try to convince you not to do this, we decide not to quit the job and to stay. Hey, maybe it'll be different tomorrow. Let me stay one more day. Well, we've just created stress. But we've also just validated the fear. We've made the fear stronger because when we had the anxiety, we ran. We had fight or flight, and we ran the other way. So now we go home feeling bad. But then the next day, we're going to do this again. I'm going to quit. Today's the day to do this. We go in, and the same thing happens. Now the anxiety is a little bit stronger. We're feeling it. And now the logical mind has the validation from yesterday. Well, you didn't quit yesterday, so the fear must be real. Just give it one more day. And we give it one more day. And we create more stress. And so the stress creates anxiety. The anxiety creates stress, and we go around and around. One day becomes two becomes a week becomes a month becomes a year, and before we know it, we're caught in this cycle, and we cannot get out of it. Well, when we create too much stress, so our body dealing with stress takes energy. So let's say let's equate energy to fuel in a day. Let's say you have so many units of fuel in a day. We have 100 units of fuel. Well, if you're using 20 of those units on stress, well, you're minimizing the amount of fuel you have for the rest of the day. Well, now you increase your stress and using 40 units of fuel out of 100. Well, now we only have 60 units to get through the day. Well, now we've gotten through the point going through the stress anxiety loop that we're using 80 units of fuel on stress and only 20 to deal with everything else in life. Well, now you're to the point where you're feeling you have low energy. You don't have the energy to get up. You don't have the energy to deal with life. You're feeling very fatigued. It's because we entered a low energy state or a depression, a depressed energy state. And when we get into a depression, this low energy state, we do not have enough energy to get out on our own. There's nothing wrong whatsoever asking for help. Please talk to somebody, ask for help, get help. Sometimes we need medication to lower the anxiety so then we can deal with the stress. That's okay. That's okay. It's what we have to do to get better. But just understand what it is, because it's easier to work on it when we understand what those components are, what anxiety is versus what stress is. And know that because stress is simply the feeling of obligation of having to do something you don't want to do, you are in control of that. We're not necessarily in control of anxiety. Anxiety is the feeling of fear. Who knows when we're going to feel that? But it's also not harmful to you. Anxiety is not harmful to you at all. Stress is. So when we get caught in that stress anxiety loop, that's when we need help. It's best to identify this before that ever happens, hopefully. But if you do get caught in that, if you feel yourself being depressed, please talk to somebody, anybody. That's the first step beyond it. Tell somebody about it, a family member, a friend, somebody. And then also get counseling. Therapy is to me, I personally believe that all actors need a therapist. I think it's essential. I think to work through the things we do as an actor, to understand psychology at a deeper level, including our own psychology, we have to talk to somebody, a counselor, a therapist, somebody. And I think it helps us. It helps us heal as a human being, be the fullest human being we can, and it also helps us be the best artist we can. So I think it's an incredibly positive step to do that, to have a counselor or a therapist that you talk to, or somebody that you can confide in and tell these things to. Okay, so we're out of time today. I did have one question that someone had asked. I do want to respond to very quickly, and it was, even if you're taking an online class somewhere, even if a class is online, can you still use it on your acting resume? And the answer is absolutely. It doesn't matter what form a class is in. If you're training, you're training, and that can still go on a resume. So, like all the, I've taught classes for the past year and a half on Zoom. I teach over at the university, and at UCF for a year, I taught on Zoom. Those classes are still just as valid as being in person, and so is anything that we do in acting as well. So yes. All right. For everyone, for everyone, there's, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. You can reach out on our. Uh, you can email us at info@truthfulacting. You can also go to our website. We have so much good information on there. Or you can call or text us at the number below. And if you have any questions about what we're doing, about anything we're talking about, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. And we are starting our new semester, begins in about a week. It begins on September 13th. We have a couple spots left. I think we have a few more in the daytime than we do at night. I think night is almost full. Our daytime class has a few spots remaining. If you'd like to join us this semester, what I talked about today is a big premise of what we teach early on. Now, it's in the whole realm of acting, of course, but we work on the human being. We work on healing ourselves as we apply it to the art, which is a very fun and cathartic process. So our classes are twice a week. So so this semester it's Mondays and Thursdays with either AM or PM options available. And the way we're doing classes this semester, we are in studio. We're fully back in studio teaching, but we do have Zoom options, meaning that we're conducting in something called a hybrid. So if you're not feeling well and you need to stay at home that day, you can connect in with us via Zoom and you still have full access online. We're trying to make it as flexible as possible for all of our students. And it's been very successful over the past semester. So if you have any questions, please reach out. It was great spending this time with you today, and I hope hope the rest of your day is extraordinary. We'll talk soon.